I apologize that I will have to speak in English. I can speak in Bengali, I can speak in Gujarati, but I don't dare to speak in Hindi, and so I will stick to English. I shall only make at this late stage, after 2 hours discussions, I shall make only one point. The idea of Tanashahi has been mentioned, and the dissent or absence of dissent in the case of those who belong to the profession called journalism has been discussed to some extent. But I would suggest that you cannot have a proper Tanashahi, a proper authoritarian state, unless you have an authoritarian leader. And how the leader comes out, where from, how he makes his way into the political theatre, that is a very important part of the story. And there has been a lot of studies going on this. Don't worry, I won't take much time. I hope to finish this within 5 minutes, what I want to say. Now, how to identify and how do you make sure that you have got a potential leader who could be called a tyrant or authoritarian center, the center of authority, the one-man leader? There are many. This has been studied. If we care to read, we will find it. I will just give you a few examples. If you had taken the first signs of this in India, it was a series of photographs which was released by Arun Shourie, himself once a journalist and a very good journalist, who published a series of photographs where our beloved Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, is seen to be pushing out the other visitors there to come in front of the camera and being the most prominent figure there. That's one. A small thing, nothing but that. Two, there are always elderly politicians who are looking for bright, young politicians who are good orators. And the hope is this, that if they promote him, through them they will mobilize the potential voters in his favor. If we can take the case of our present Prime Minister, who was expected to resign after the pogrom in Gujarat, the Gujarat riots. But the only person who expected that was Mr. Vajpayee, who was the leader. And the one who agreed with those who were supporting Mr. Modi refused to agree that he should resign after this major riot. Major riot. Because Advani expected that he will Modi will make it easy for him to get into the leadership position. But as you well know, the first person to push out of politics was Mr. Advani himself by Mr. Modi. But that's the other part of the story. This has been the situation in a number of Latin American countries as well as some of the ones in Africa. I'm talking about a global scene. Secondly, who are the friends of this kind of leaders? You will always find they look for the same kind of people. So Bolsonaro came as a guest of our Republic Day. He knew nothing of India, was hated by the entire Brazilian ventures in Latin America, and so on and so forth. But I don't want to go into that very much. There's also some little bit of indicators, like for example, I requested 2 of my former students to count how many vests he has, bandis, what I am wearing, and what some of them are also wearing. One counted, in case of Mr. Modi, 150, another counted 240 or something, but a third one claims that he will find more. So let us take the middle thing, 250 one person, because for every occasion you need a new one. You never repeat the same Bandi in politics. You make a new round in order for a new round. Now, more important ones, the creation of enemies. Not enemies, creation of usually one major enemy and a couple of other minor ones. So, it can be outside India, from outside India, or sometimes within India. And this is pumped into the public sphere so that everybody is constantly worried about what will happen, how will this will end, with a war or with avoidance, with running a whole apparatus, purchases of defensive weapons or offensive weapons, whatever, and that is expected to keep the people always on toes, that to convince them that there is danger outside. So nationalism has to be also got up. And also, this is a very important, a hate culture which spreads all around the entire political system. Yes, political parties, even a person like Trump shook hands with Biden this time, and photographs came up. I've never seen that kind of shaking or even namaskar within any of the Indian parties. Parties are seen to be each one. Parties hate each other. That hates. Once you introduce hate, that hate then spreads. Because if you begin to spread hatred against the BJP, then in the process BJP also hate you, or vice versa. If the state hates you, you also hate the state, or the authorities in the state. And this hate culture then spreads. It even percolates into or seeps into the family life, in institutional life, and so on and so forth. The total collapse of higher education in India is a very good proof of that. If you go and ask your friends or others that what is the situation of advanced or higher education is this, and they will authenticate it. Now, I don't want to extend this discussion. This also involves an idea of revenge. And anybody who speaks of revenge is automatically has a subtle gear. He can change his party and join the ruling party. So I have given you a reasonably good design of how to produce an authoritarian regime and how to run it. But it is a long thing. I have been working on it for a long while. But I do hope that it will go home here with the conviction that dissent in India cannot be suppressed. And if I had the time, I would have spelled out how this survival of dissent in India has been this way, this openness to dissent has begun something like 150 years ago. No, more. I would say it began with more than that, nearly 200 years ago. And this part of the story I will reserve for some other time, because that possibility of dissent, to which I would assign the success of surviving dissent and transgressing the authoritarian atmosphere in which journalism has to function or press has to function is a different kind of story. Thank you very much for the attention.